thanks a lot for joining for this call. The idea today is to introduce the openIMIS initiative. Our presenter is going to be from the coordination desk, and we're happy to answer your question. Then after this presentation, please, nevertheless, if you want to already put your questions in the chat so that we can take them up. Alternatives, you just come in and later on unmuting yourself. Okay, the openIMIS initiative, the openIMIS itself refers to open source software that supports digital transformation of social protection programs, health and social protection programs to be precise. And from what we have listed here as solutions, you see which use cases, so to say, can be addressed, managed with that software. So you can use it to manage health insurance, social health insurance, voucher schemes, for instance, in the context also of health services, but also, for instance, for educational services, cash transfer programs, employment injury insurance, as well as beneficiary registries. Here we refer to social registry, integrated beneficiary registries. Digital public good, you might be aware, goes with along with several criteria. So open source is one of the factors, stressing many points on the side of sustainability. So one aspect here would be also working in a decentralized manner. This means, even though I mentioned coordination desk, which from its name, obviously has a coordination function, we work really decentralized. So openIMIS works together with partners on the implementation side, implementation in the countries, on the IT developer side, and on the implementation side, we mean bilateral, multilateral organizations, like, for instance, Enable, as an example for Belgium, or Expertise France, for France, Development Cooperation, as well as really strong partners like the ILO, who have been implementing openIMIS in several countries already, World Bank, especially active in the field of the cash transfer solution, for instance. But also other partners listed here. The initiative is funded, co-funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, and by the European Commission. And to date, there are implementations realized in 15 countries, which are shown here on this map. We would have at least 5 more countries by now where implementations are actually being prepared but not officially launched, so that we don't count them in here. And serving really different social protection, health and social protection programs. So really covering basically these use cases that I mentioned on health insurance and so on. It's important, or another aspect also of digital public goods, that we adhere to international standards. So even to the point that openIMIS had been very active in the original standard development, which of course is a process that happens together with other partners. You might have heard about the Digital Convergence Initiative in social protection that is really acting here as a facilitator. And in that context, openIMIS had been also active in standard committees on various technical data standards in social protection. From the original history of openIMIS in health, coming from the health insurance, it had been adhering to standards and working together with openHIE, HL7 Fire from early onwards, and can really use this experience on standard development and eventually implementation. That is basically the quick overview slide that we provide, and we will from now on go a little bit more into details on the one or the other aspect. Okay. Yeah, that's actually just a zoom in for the implementations, implementation countries, to provide a short history without going maybe too much into detail, but just for you to understand where that software and the initiative around it is coming from. In the very beginning, 2012, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation had been addressing the need in Tanzania to come up with a software for the management of a community health fund. Back then, it was started with a software that wasn't open source based, but as the implementation was successful, and then several other countries asked for similar solutions, the Swiss side basically realized the potential of that demand and wanted to develop this more systematically, and decided to go into an open source approach with the software, so that you wouldn't have the individual software instances always built up or copied from that original instance and customized, but that you can really develop also a modular architecture, planning a bit more long term, so that you're flexible in taking in different functionalities, being able to package them, so it becomes easier for the country that wants to install the software for the one or the other use case to get started. So in 2016, the Swiss agency then approached the German ministry, really suggesting to go in this open source approach, and then also what is a key feature of open source software to be really successful in the long term is to build up the network of developers, implementers, what we call the openIMIS community, which also includes the users. If we say users of the software, we refer to the health insurances, the social protection agencies that eventually administrate the software. So it's a software for the back office software, so to say, for the administration, even though we have recent developments that allow also the eventual beneficiary to use the system. It is first and foremost an administrative tool to health insurance or social protection agency. By 2007, we had basically the first implementations or upgrades to the open source software in Tanzania, Cameroon, and Nepal, and they are up to date, definitely the biggest implementations with, I think we said 17 million beneficiaries alone in Nepal. Tanzania, I hope I'm up with the right figures, like around 6 million, and Cameroon, which had a lot of smaller implementations originally, integrated them all into a universal health coverage program about 2 years ago, and stands at 4 million now being enrolled. Still working, of course, on the further rollout on a national level. openIMIS developed not only in the sense that more countries took up the software, but of course, it became also more flexible in what use case to address. So other solutions than the original health insurance solution were developed. So especially during the Corona crisis, there was a smaller IT company that took initiative and developed openIMIS for cash transfer in the Gambia, to really provide basically emergency support during the Corona crisis. And then over the years, more country implementation joined, more solutions on employment injury insurance. So basically covering the formal insurance or health aspects around employment. So this was implemented in Nepal, also in Bangladesh. And then another bigger development came with the merger with a technical solution that had been originally developed by the World Bank, openIMIS, which focused on cash transfer. And you heard the keyword before. So there was a solution in the Gambia, which was more really specific for that one case. And with the integration of openIMIS from the World Bank, also in a basically integrating it to be part of that open source solution, we were able to really address this more systematically. And now, of course, World Bank being one of the big promoters around that cash transfer solution. Yeah, ILO I had already mentioned as an important implementation partner with, I think by now, 5 implementations and 2 more are being in preparation. So yeah, basically more partners joined that are just came from the standpoint generally of supporting digital public goods, and found that openIMIS is one of the solutions they would be fine to refer to. Then we actually look a little bit into the details of the solutions, and with that, I would hand over to Saurav.
Thanks, Constanza. And hello, everyone. Apologies for my voice. I just came down with a cold overnight. And yeah, so I have this voice that isn't the most useful right now, but let me take you through solutions for openIMIS. So as you heard from Constanza's presentation, no? So we've had this journey for quite a while, from 2012, where it started out as a tool for health insurance. Then and as it became open source and modular, a lot of our community also started realizing that the potential of openIMIS is beyond just the health, social health protection domain. So they started experimenting, creating these solutions, or making these customizations to fulfill various needs. And as we grew along, and they submitted all their code, so as an open source community, they put in what we call pull requests into the global tool. So all these functionalities now are in openIMIS. But what we started realizing is it's very, very rare that there will be an institution or an implementer that needs to implement all the functionalities that are within openIMIS, and it actually makes the software quite bloated, because let's say we're using it for a cash transfer scheme. It would still have elements of the health insurance, so that wasn't particularly useful. So taking advantage of the modularity that we have in the software, we are now in the process of packaging different functionality or functional modules together to create solutions powered by openIMIS. So if you just need to use openIMIS to manage a health insurance scheme, a social health protection scheme, you just take that solution and you don't have all the things from the cash transfer. But if you need a module, of course, you can customize it to add some modules as well. So it'd be a social health protection plus cash as well. So you're free to add, but let's say pre-packaged solutions, we just want to make it helpful for the community to move forward. So similarly for employment injury insurance, voucher schemes, cash transfers, and just to use openIMIS, as Constanza mentioned, as registries. And these are just the ideas that have been circulating in the community so far. It isn't. These aren't set in stone. There is no limit to how many solutions we can have. Where right now there's a team actively working on figuring out how we can actually um, build these solutions even more easily, so that it's not a pain to really create these solutions. So we're creating configurable files. for that. And that also opens up from our perspective a possibility to design a solution that is, for example, let's say, aimed towards managing humanitarian aid, because of course, customizations would need to be done, but we believe the core functionalities around managing beneficiaries through registries, managing benefits, either cash or in kind as well. That's something openIMIS has already done. If it's a voucher-based benefit deployment, then we can have that as well. So it's really up to the community from the openIMIS initiative. We really support the building of different solutions. Of course, we don't have infinite resources to continue to build these different solutions, but from our point of view, we see it as okay. Let's build a new solution powered by openIMIS, and if there's a institution that wants to take over, let's say the technical responsibility around it in the community, because they are, for example, if we take the example of humanitarian aid, then we can say, okay, this organization is really the brains behind the functionality around humanitarian aid, but the community also contributes. Something similar to what we're seeing in cash transfer. A lot of the social protection sectoral knowledge came from our World Bank colleagues, because they had the core MIS tool, but now it's a part of it. So the World Bank is also using it for their deployments, and we have a lot of their sectoral expertise as well. And next slide, please. So when we're looking at these solutions generally and looking at the various modules, and sorry, the screen isn't changing for me, but I'm guessing it's the social protection delivery chain. And the next slide, if you want to see that, there you go. So the modules that we have in openIMIS are broadly aligned to this delivery chain, which came out from the source book on social protection. So we have modules that help assess beneficiaries, enroll them, provide, and provide is can be really big. No, like here it's only represented by one point, but provision is provision of healthcare benefits, even including claims management, etc., or cash benefits, or in kind, or vouchers, etc. And then management, no? So managing the beneficiaries, even in cash transfer schemes, let's say, looking at reconciliation, etc. So that's the idea. And in the next slide, you see how some of these modules come together to create the core MIS solution. So the core MIS solution, which is for social cash transfers. This is a solution powered by openIMIS. So it has these functionalities. No? So from prepare, it does you basically create your program, your social assistance program, you assess beneficiaries, get lists of individuals, even if they're not beneficiaries before, assess if they are beneficiaries, enroll them into programs, provide them cash benefits, and then manage the data. As you can see, this is also openIMIS. You can install this as is, and you don't have to get any health insurance claims modules. So that's the idea how we're looking at it. And in the next slide, you see now the same openIMIS with if you combine different modules, you get the health insurance solution, which goes from managing enrollment similar to what we saw in the cash transfer, like depending on the scheme, if we need assessment and enrollment. But then now service utilization is much more. So there are more modules around service utilization. So assessing if a patient is insured or not, collecting their healthcare delivery data, creating claims, reviewing claims, also including an AI module, and then basically calculating a payment out to the health facility. And of course, monitoring and reporting is also in this solution as well. So they're cross-cutting modules or new ones as well. So next slide. And that will take us into some implementation experiences, just to give you an idea of how we've seen implementations happen, so that you can relate it to your way of working as well. So generally, there's one system owner. Let's say if we take that example of a health insurance or a cash transfer scheme, the government organization, it could be non-government as well, doesn't need to be government, that's actually managing the scheme. no, so or managing the social assistance program, is the owner of the openIMIS deployment. They can choose to deploy it on local servers or on their cloud. We as GIZ do not provide that service of hosting, nor do we have access to the system. So the whoever is implementing, either the supporting implementation agency or the actual government agency that's providing the social benefit, is the owner, and they're responsible for data security, and managing their servers as well. Of course, we provide guidance on how best to do it, but because we don't have any access to the data, we don't enforce any extra, let's say, data privacy guidelines on them. It's what the country um, has in their laws. No, so that's basically the scenario. In typical situations, we see staff at the payer organization or the social assistance benefit provider organization that use openIMIS, so to manage enrollment, checking service provision, M&E, etc. And staff at the health service provider, or if there's another provider for another item, let's say if it's a food distribution, then people can use openIMIS there. From those users can verify eligibility and then submit service data. And now we're recently getting into new modules that let beneficiaries directly interact with openIMIS. So we have a new implementation coming up where beneficiaries will be able to log in and submit requests for let's say labor, for their labor benefits, etc. So that's coming up, and I think you will hear about it during the stakeholder conference as well next week. Next slide, please. Yeah, so again, just to be clear, costs on openIMIS, there's no licensing cost, there's no cost to join the initiative. There will be customization costs if you need to customize the software, but those are basically based on the requirements that you have specific to your scheme. If you need interoperability with various things, that would come at a cost. That cost is basically, you can have an internal cost if you have teams within your organization that can do the customization. Then it would be an internal cost to you. We can help build capacity in your teams to get up to speed of in openIMIS, so like developer starter kits, these kind of things, so that they can actually develop the software. So you're not tied to one vendor. That is absolutely what we are trying to go against, that to make a market for people that work on openIMIS, and that also determines the timeline. No, so if you just need what openIMIS already has right now, it's ready to use as is. No, you just install it, configure it, and you're good to go. But then customization takes some time. But just from experience that we've been hearing recently, Burundi launched a national cash transfer scheme a few months ago, and for them, the total turnaround time from installing openIMIS to really going live for a national scheme was about 3 months, which in IT project turnaround times, we believe is quite remarkable, actually, to have a national scheme. So that's the advantage that openIMIS provides. So you already have a lot of the functionalities there, so you just customize on top of it so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there's no requirement for you to have to rewrite the software from scratch. Next slide, please. And here we will, in the next slide, we'll see like some typical scenarios on how different actors among us, what roles we might have. And this is not the only way implementation would work. There are multiple ways, but this is just for an example. No? So if you look on the left, we have two funding sources. So this is where funds could come in for an implementation. The funder group, which is what Constanza explained earlier, BMZ, SDC, and the European Commission, they fund the GIZ coordination desk. So we don't do implementations, but we manage this global initiative. So those funds are there. But then for implementation, we can have any funder for the implementation costs. No, so for, let's say, the customization, maybe computers need to be bought for particularly training of staff. So we can help reduce those costs because customization would reduce because there's a lot of the code is already written. Training costs would reduce because a lot of the material is already available, just needs to be customized for the context. Hardware, unfortunately, we can't reduce costs there. No, like that's hardware would just need to be bought as per the current prices. But so these would be two funding mechanisms that we see, and there's generally an in-country project that that basically uses it or manages all of this. There's also contribution, either financially or in kind, by the partner government. We see that as well, that institutions, particularly when it comes to scaling, no, you launch a pilot after the success to go nationally, then government national budgets are used. So that's also a funding and or other in-kind support streams. There's generally an openIMIS implementation partner. So these are the various companies that are available that provide openIMIS related support. These are, you can find them in many countries or regional or global. Or if you don't want and you want to do it within your project or your team itself, that's also absolutely fine and will help you build your own capacity for that. And basically all of this support is going to the Social Protection Agency, where openIMIS would be used. So that's basically a project flow. As you see, there's not a direct link between the global desk and an in-country implementation. There's not a direct line, and that's because we don't want to be in a situation where we dictate how your project should go. So we're only in a facilitation role. We provide whenever you have problems, we can provide you with access to different experts, and we would like to engage regularly to provide updates. Once the Social Protection Agency is online with openIMIS, they can install the new updates. We can get knowledge exchange from them, so their implementation knowledge or community support as well. So we don't want to be, or we don't want to, we want to let the implementations have their own path, but we're always there to support. So this is one scenario, no? But there we could look at various ones as well. But just to give you an idea where we're coming from. So with that, I think this section ends, and I can hand over to Adar for the next section on the tech.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay.
That's already.
Yeah, thank you. We will talk about the interoperability in openIMIS. If we can see on the middle of the screen, we have the functionality and the modules that we have inside openIMIS, like beneficiary management, health service utilization, claim management, and insurance scheme, and we are also interoperable with other systems like electronic medical record system, and we can, for example, exchange data between openIMIS and beneficiary management system, like data collection, if we can collect employer data or exchange employer data, or for example, if we want to exchange the information if someone has made a payment for the insurance, or he gets a payment for the cash registry, then we have also API that speak with other or external systems, and we are using the standard interface that's called FHIR. That's what you see on the top right. Next, please. Yeah. For the technology stack, we are using for the front end, for the implementation and development, React.js for the user interface as user interface components framework, And also we will use in the near future Vite. This is for the build and the development server. React remains stay our framework, and Vite will come as a tool on the top. At the back end, we are using Python, and Python is like the programming language, and the Django is the framework that's built on Python language. And the framework Django is speeding up the development of web application. The primary API that we are using inside our openIMIS service-oriented architecture is the GraphQL standard, which is implemented also as in the Graphene Python library. As a database, next please. As a database, we are using Postgres is our standard database. We are also still making service for SQL Server, because Microsoft SQL Server is deprecated. We are not using it anymore for new implementation. We have just to look for if we have an old implementation, and we help to maintain Microsoft SQL Server. And for the collaboration tools, we are using GitHub as version control for our implementation, for our development, and we are using Atlassian Confluence for knowledge management and project documentation. All the documents, all information you will find inside of Confluence. And also we are using Docker as pre-configured openIMIS Docker image is always published for every release, and this is like we say, it's ready to use version, and speed up the deployment of openIMIS. You can install it and you can start working with openIMIS. Thank you, and I will give the
hand back to me. Thanks.
Okay.
A lot, Badr and Saurav. And for the audience, as you realize, we are trying to structure the introduction of openIMIS initiative really, let's say, along the work streams. So I would want to briefly take you also through the aspects of community management, capacity development, though, as you can imagine, these happen all integrated, right? I mean, the technical development happens in reaction to the implementation management, the feedback from the country implementations, so demand-oriented. Community management is our exchange with the implementing organizations or companies, with the IT developers, and capacity development as well. It's capacity development is addressing not only the user organizations, so health insurances, social protection agencies that need to train their staff to be able to work with openIMIS as a management software, but it also, of course, addresses our developers that setting up basically the instances in the countries, implementation teams, and so on. So big family, a lot of exchange, and that is just here, this picture, an impression from a community meeting, really with the IT developers, implementers from supporting many country implementations. This took place in Cameroon, so presence of our partners, community members from that region was a bit higher, but eventually we have country implementations also in Asia, and actually also some in Latin America starting off. To talk a little bit more about capacity development, because that's, of course, always a big important investment to make things sustainable. The as mentioned here, it is to support sustainability, but of course also being able to grow the implementations as well as our community. So you need constant onboarding of new implementation developer teams. Adaptability in the sense also only if you know what is there already, if you know where are the flexibilities, you can really best venture out to work on a new scenario and maybe come up with a new solution, or at least customize it to have additional functionality that maybe you only need in this one country implementation context. It's also the ticket to really keep the diversity of your community, of the different stakeholders. We have a lot of multilateral organizations really supporting, as we stated, World Bank, ILO, UN organizations. Capacity development supports the onboarding here. On the developer side, it really makes possible that local IT companies can apply to tenders if a country is at that stage to tender out IT services on implementing, either really digitalizing a program that they haven't been able to manage digitally before, or to update their system because it might not be able to grow anymore with the regional rollout, national rollout, or more functionality. Community of practice, I basically explained a little bit already who is part of that: developers, implementers, users, user organizations. So it's important for us, the software only learns, we and software only learn with that continuous exchange. So finding out what are maybe patterns and bugs that happen. So how can we address them systematically and provide a better positioned version on the, so to say, on the global level that can then be again trickled down, or with a release, basically new release, be updated in the countries. Troubleshooting basically, as well as new functionality. So a lot of our facilitation between implementers, developers is of course also of giving them the stage to introduce what they have developed in a specific country context and with the requirements that came for a cash transfer or health insurance, and feature these in a sense to encourage others to look at what they have developed. If we see it's relevant for many implementations, then we make sure it's taken up in the global version and provided with the next release, again for everyone to use. So it's a for and back where so to say innovation comes from, but mostly fed really from the demand from the countries, or we have the important mediators here like ILO, if they support several programs in the formal sector management, formal sector health insurance, or World Bank on cash transfer, then they will see a pattern, right? And requests that come up from the countries they work with. So then they're also important in really moderating this demand to us. The approach we have in the capacity development on what we offer on a global level, I mean, that is, again, as sort of trying to show also with the implementation side, this can only be a backup on the global level. A lot of offers can be customized to fit better than in the local training, but there are, of course, always some really specific trainings on that instance of openIMIS in the country. So the local customized version and the global offers go together. But yeah, what we offer on the global level is really partnering with, for instance, ILO. They had been preparing capacity development training on generally the management of social protection, management information systems, where as example, as how I say, reference cases. They also bring in, for instance, openIMIS next to other solutions. But that can be really easily a reference point then for participants in that training, right? So it's a good opportunity for us, but what is attractive for ILO is really they are able to show a practical use case of how a digital solution can address a certain need. Similarly, on the topic of discussing AI in health insurance, looking at some specific applications, for instance, around claims management and fraud detection, we work together with Amref Health Africa and ADB to develop an e-learning course, and we do this based on some learning exchange with really practitioners from the health insurances, social protection agencies, so that we don't provide something theoretical, but something that speaks to the everyday work of people later on attending from could be policy level, but also from the health insurance authorities. And together with International Social Security Association, we had been working similarly on presenting in one example among others that is facilitated to show what applications are there in healthcare that can support more efficient management. A few other aspects, and I don't want to also keep too long here so that we get into the discussion part with you. We work on a global level on the capacity development, but to really better reach out, we need support on a regional level, and there we have organizations, networks like EHIN, the Asian eHealth Information Network, KEHIA, the Kenya Health Informatics Association, DataPref in Latin America, being able to help us really on Portuguese, partly Spanish reach out. And they help to really anchor learning formats also in the region, bring back what are the needs in terms of training or exchange. They can provide really guidance. So partly, for instance, EHIN supported us on missions to countries where it was about first requirements gathering, feasibility assessment, first idea collection on how a solution could be customized for a case that was, for instance, in Lao PDR, and so on. And really foster peer-to-peer learning. So these regional partners are providing their own webinars on openIMIS, on other connected solutions, so that we really get into the exchange with potential new users. Collaboration with academia provides us another aspect of sustainability and investing really in the future generation of experts in health financing, in social protection management. So IT companies. And then that was, I think, sorry if you touched upon it, and comes also back to what I said in the beginning, our interest in really decentralizing power, knowledge, and support to the implementations. So any tenders that we are aware of from countries where they look for the IT teams, for instance, to support in a setup of software or customization of a software for cash transfer or on beneficiary management. We share them in the legal community, share them openly, so everyone who would try to follow our developments can see this published here. So it's an open market, and that encourages really new IT companies to come in, and it makes sure like everyone, a donor organization, a policy advisory agency engaging in a country would consider the option of openIMIS as a technical solution can rely on companies, IT companies around being in reach or we support training material to get local IT companies started to support them. We think a few more slides, but try to keep it brief. Yeah, that is to share the governance structure. We have mentioned the funders who play, of course, an important role in the initiative, looking at long-time engagement, strategic direction, but that is actually a moderated exchange between funders and the stakeholders that we mentioned here in the stakeholder committee. So apart from the funders, World Bank, International Labour Organization, World Food Programme, International Social Security Association are already members. We have representatives from developer companies, from the regional networks that I mentioned before, who support on first implementation support, as well as capacity development, as well as individual health financing experts. And that stakeholder committee can also further grow. We make sure it actually takes in new partners who are important stakeholders, market observers for us also when we look at new solutions. We see coordination desk, just a quick summary, because I started saying those of us presenting now work for the coordination desk, which is hosted at GIZ. GIZ is just in the end, if you look at the country implementations, it's just one of the organizations supporting country implementations next to others. So it doesn't have, so to say, a special role in this. It's just organizational background that the coordination desk is hosted at GIZ. From here we facilitate the exchange with implementers, developers to learn together, to make the program more tailored to the needs. As you can imagine, around software development and offering it, it's important to offer documentation, knowledge resources, which we do through Wiki, through various collaboration tools. New software development on the global level is steered from here, but again, in communication with what are the needs from the countries or what are the upcoming needs. We of course promote the further use and development of the software. So if we offer this introduction call, clearly this is one outreach format as well. On the implementation side, as sort of stressed, so we provide implementation so on a global level. We are not the team that implements, for instance, the cash transfer in Burundi. For that, you have really the local implementation team, even though that might work together, for instance, with World Bank global team. They from a global level, we can support on feasibility study because, of course, a lot of knowledge here is pooled. Then requirements definition. If you look at customized version of a certain solution, or you look really at new solutions, as we want to discuss in the upcoming stakeholder conference, you need the technical requirements definition there we can support. There is a certain support on the capacity development we can offer, but more in a sense, we provide global level material that can be easily customized. I think capacity development, generally, I already introduced this. I would say I definitely go back to talk about the stakeholder conference, what are the contents here, but which is coming up next week on 17th of September. But I think we should first reserve questions, time for your questions, and then I'm happy to go back, tell a bit more about that conference.